Machu Picchu is the most impressive living testimony of Inca civilization.
High in the Peruvian Andes, a mystery has refused to fade. Massive stone walls rise across Machu Picchu, Sacsayhuaman, and Ollantaytambo. Some blocks weighing over 100 tons, yet fitted so tightly together that not even a sheet of paper can slide between them.
Nobody, as far as he could see, knew where it was. This appealed to Bingham as a puzzle he could solve himself.
These structures have stood for centuries, surviving earthquakes that destroyed Spanish colonial buildings, and still leave engineers wondering how they were made. The builders had no wheels, no iron tools, and no written plans. Yet somehow, stones the size of buses were hauled from distant quarries and locked in place with almost impossible accuracy. So who truly built these megaliths? And could they be connected to other unexplained wonders found across the world? Machu Picchu stones and Inca engineering. Deep in the Peruvian Andes, at nearly 8,000 feet above sea level, something impossible happened. The Inca built a city on a knife-edge ridge where no city should have survived, yet Machu Picchu has stood for nearly 6 centuries. For all this time, this city has been mocking every law of physics and engineering that should have brought it crashing down. When Hiram Bingham first laid eyes on these ruins in 1911, he couldn't have known he was discovering what would become archaeology's greatest puzzle. The so-called lost city of the Incas was not just lost. It was deliberately hidden, and for good reason. What the Inca accomplished here bordered on the miraculous, using techniques that still leave modern engineers scratching their heads. The location alone should have been Machu Picchu's death sentence. Perched between 2 towering peaks, the site faces a continuous assault from nature. Landslides that could bury entire neighborhoods, earthquakes that topple modern skyscrapers, and rains that turn mountainsides into rivers of mud. Any sensible civilization would have looked at this death trap and kept walking. But the Inca thrived here, creating a masterpiece that laughs in the face of geological catastrophe. Their secret weapon was not some lost technology or alien intervention. It was pure, calculated genius. The builders carved hundreds of terraces into the mountainside. Each terrace functioned as a sophisticated drainage system, channeling water through precisely engineered layers of stone, gravel, and soil. What strikes people most about visiting these terraces is how water still flows through them today, exactly as intended 500 years ago. We have seen modern cities with drainage systems that fail after a decade, yet Machu Picchu still outperforms them. Then it's the stones, where the Inca truly showed off. These are andesite and granite blocks, some weighing dozens of tons, cut with such surgical precision that no mortar was needed. The joints between stones are so tight that you cannot slide a knife blade between them. It is genuinely unsettling how perfect these fits are. What makes this even more mind-bending is the material itself. Granite registers 6 to 7 on the Mohs hardness scale. It is tough enough that we need diamond-tipped saws to cut it today. The Inca had no steel, no iron, and certainly no diamonds. They worked with stone hammers, chisels, and unlimited patience. Archaeologists estimate it took years just to shape a single wall, with thousands of workers pounding away with diorite hammerstones. The thought of creating Machu Picchu this way is almost incomprehensible. Moving these huge blocks presented another seemingly impossible challenge. The quarries lay somewhere nearby, but nearby in Andean terms still meant hauling multi-ton blocks up vertical slopes at oxygen-depleting altitude. Without wheels or draft animals capable of the job, the Inca relied on human power, ropes, and levers. And the stonework here is just as impressive. The Incas didn't just stack blocks. Some walls locked together with 10 or more stones meeting at different angles, like a 3D puzzle designed to never fall. This is why the walls don't crack even when earthquakes shake the Andes. The builders also carved niches into the walls and shaped doorways into trapezoids, a form that gave extra stability and has become a signature of Inca design. Even the polished stones used in ceremonial areas show the same precision. Visiting this place makes you realize that these walls were not rushed. Every cut, every joint, every angle was done with purpose. But that leaves us with the real question. How did they even build this? Without steel, without wheels, without the kind of tools we would call necessary today, How were these blocks cut, shaped, and placed with such impossible accuracy? Did lost civilizations build these monuments? One of the most controversial explanations is that a much older civilization built these walls long before the Inca. Geological evidence backs up the idea that catastrophic floods ripped through the Andes thousands of years earlier, around the end of the last ice age. Sediment layers in South America show signs of sudden flooding, massive enough to wipe out entire valleys. During the Younger Dryas period, about 12,000 years ago, global temperatures shifted violently. Glaciers melted, seas rose, and violent floods swept across continents. If an advanced Andean culture existed before this disaster, most of its cities would have been washed away. Only the hardest stones would remain. That means the Inca may have stumbled upon ruins already thousands of years old and simply reused them. Another theory pushes us into even more controversial territory. What if the stones were not carved at all? What if they were softened? Some researchers argue that the builders may have discovered a chemical technique that allowed them to break down the surface of rock, making it malleable. Locals still tell stories about plants that melt stone. Hydrofluoric acid, which can eat through almost anything, is one possible candidate. The Andes are rich in fluorite, and mining in the region produced sulfuric acid as a byproduct. Mix the two and you get a chemical powerful enough to etch granite. It sounds crazy, but when you look at certain stones in Cusco, they don't look carved. They look wiped, as if the rock was briefly soft. Some seams show crystals fused together in unnatural ways. Maybe the builders had mastered a chemical process we don't know about. Mainstream archaeology says it's not possible, but they also cannot explain why some joints look melted instead of chiseled. The crazy thing is, Peru is not the only place with this problem. Across the world, we see massive stone structures built with techniques we cannot fully explain. In Egypt, the Great Pyramid at Giza contains blocks weighing 80 tons, stacked with baffling precision. At Baalbek in Lebanon, stones exceed 1,000 tons, placed in perfect alignment. On Easter Island, statues weighing over 80 tons were somehow dragged miles across rugged terrain. And in Turkey, Göbekli Tepe, built more than 11,000 years ago, shows massive carved pillars older than agriculture itself. Different continents, different cultures, yet the same unsolved questions. Who built these monuments, and how did they do it? Even in the Indus Valley, intricate stone carvings and complex city grids suggest techniques ahead of their time. Maybe all these sites are not just coincidences. Maybe ancient humans, long before recorded history, possessed knowledge we have underestimated or lost. Maybe we don't need to believe in aliens or magic. Maybe the truth is simpler. Human knowledge is fragile. Skills can be lost in a single generation. If a civilization in the Andes had mastered advanced stonework, whether through brute force, clever tools, or chemistry, that knowledge could vanish after a flood, a war, or conquest. When the Inca rose centuries later, they inherited the stones but not the techniques. That would explain everything. Why the lower walls are perfect, but the upper layers are not. Why do oral traditions speak of builders before? Why do so many cultures remember floods and golden ages wiped out? So, how can we confirm these theories? We cannot chip off giant blocks from Sacsayhuaman or drill holes into Machu Picchu without destroying what makes them priceless. But that doesn't mean the mystery is untouchable. With modern science, we now have tools that could finally test the claims, without rewriting the stones themselves. New tech reveals secrets of ancient stones. One of the most promising is LiDAR. It's a laser scanning that can map terrain hidden under soil and vegetation. It can help peel away the landscape like layers on a map. LiDAR could reveal terraces, buried structures, and even hidden tunnels beneath the ruins. If there really are underground chambers or earlier construction phases, this technology could find them without lifting a single stone. This will help us find out whether the blocks are the only things the Incas built, or if there is something else beneath. Then there is 3D laser scanning, already used in other ancient sites around the world. Point it at the walls of Ollantaytambo or Sacsayhuaman, and you get millimeter-precise models of every joint and angle. This could settle the debate over whether the cuts were really hand-chiseled or if there are signs of some lost technique. Even heat expansion could be tested, with repeated scans across seasons to see if the stones flex together like one massive structure. We could also bring in spectroscopy and chemical analysis. If samples were taken from seams, scientists could test whether the stone shows traces of heat treatment or chemical alteration. That would finally answer whether the stone softening theory has any truth, or if it's just a legend. Right now, nobody knows because no one has been allowed to test it. Another incredible approach would be cosmogenic nuclide dating. This will help us measure isotopes like beryllium-10 or aluminum-26 on quarry faces and unfinished blocks. This could reveal when the stones were first exposed to sunlight after quarrying. If the results show exposure thousands of years before the Inca rose, that would change history overnight. Optically stimulated luminescence could also be applied to terraces and fills. By testing when grains of quartz last saw daylight, OSL could date the soil layers used in construction. That means we could actually phase the building projects. And yes, even AI has a role here. We can feed it thousands of data points from scans, maps, and alignments, and patterns may emerge that humans cannot see. It will help us find out if the stones are aligned with solar events with more precision than chance allows, or if multiple sites share mathematical ratios, like golden sections or geometric grids. AI could connect dots that have gone unnoticed for centuries. Of course, some methods simply won't work. Carbon dating is useless on the stones themselves because granite and andesite contain no organic matter. At best, it can date charcoal or wood found in soil layers between the blocks. That gives hints, but never a direct age for the stones. Other methods, like uranium-thorium dating, might be used on calcite deposits growing over the walls, but that only tells when the deposit formed, not when the stone was cut. In short, some of the most famous dating tools cannot touch this mystery. So this is where we stand. The ruins still defy explanation, but the science exists that could push us closer. LiDAR could uncover hidden cities. 3D scans could prove the precision is no illusion. Chemical testing could confirm or crush the stone softening idea. The question is, will anyone be allowed to use them? Because right now, the stones still stand in silence. And until the day someone dares to test them, the truth of how they were built will remain one of history's most untouchable secrets. Now tell us what you think. What's the mystery behind the lost city of the Incas? Share your opinions with us in the comments below. And if you want to uncover the mysteries history books still won't touch, make sure you subscribe. Because what's coming next will change the way you see the world forever. Goodbye for now.